All eyes are on what the Sixers are going to do with the number 3 pick at next month's draft while holding on, bringing in new talent. Is the likely move, it has been suggested that a trade is not ruled out. According to the Stein line, Marc Stein says if the Sixers trade their pick, it's likely in a trade down scenario, but they wouldn't go, quote, very far. So if they move off the number 3 pick, it'd be this idea that they would go back a little bit in the draft, still get somebody, but they maybe don't see someone they like at number 3. Let's break this down. What do you think maybe the Sixers should do, will do here with the number 3 pick?
Another exciting offseason for the Sixers. They were the winners of the offseason last year. They got Paul George. What a great move, we thought. Didn't turn out that way. But really, the draft does start with the Sixers. It feels like for this time around, Cooper Flagg's going 1. Dylan Harper, it seems like, is going to be going 2 to the Spurs. So what is the move going to be for the Sixers? I think their decision starts with, what can we expect realistically from Joel Embiid? Do they think he's going to be able to play 60 games? Do they think he'll be healthier this season without having the Olympics ahead of time, without having to get his knee cleaned up? Though maybe they got to do that as well. Is he going to be at MVP caliber? Because they're all in right now, but they would be even more all in if they actually make a trade with this 3rd draft pick. If they think he's going to be healthy and effective, it's kind of smart to trade down, get a player, and get some young guys as well, right? Because postseason, Daryl Morey admitted it, we got to get younger and more athletic. The Kyle Lowry, Eric Gordon, Andre Drummond style veterans, that's not helpful during the regular season. If Embiid's going to miss time, if Paul George is going to miss time, they got to have some guys who can carry them through the slog of the regular season. So maybe a trade with the Nets makes sense, right? Like Cam Johnson and a couple of their late first. I think Brooklyn has 19, 26, and 27. You trade them your 3rd pick. Maybe there's somebody Brooklyn really likes at number 3. Some salary filler. I think that makes sense. It's not very likely, though, that a trade happens, because I think this is a chance for Daryl Morey to kind of see the next stage of the Sixers. Now, that requires buy-in from Sixers management to want to keep him around, but they've got Maxey. They've got McCain, who will be healthy again. They're probably going to bring back Quentin Grimes. They've got some decent young pieces. It's their older guys who are unreliable. So if you can add a 4th young piece of a core here, maybe that's better, I think. So my guess is that they stay put at number 3 and use the pick, just because the easiest thing usually happens in the NBA. And I think it's a big risk to trade a number 3 draft pick when the whole point of last season, when things went sour and you tanked, was so you could get it, so you could keep your pick. And then they got the gift of getting number 3. So I think they'll probably keep it and use it.
Right. I think they didn't sit Maxey and Paul George the last month of the season to trade down in the draft. They got this beautiful pick here at the number 3 spot. Yes, whether it's Dylan Harper somehow falling to them or getting Ace Bailey, that's a good player. That would be an incredible situation for them. They didn't sit those guys to trade this pick down, I don't think. That being said, they only really have 4 guaranteed rotation players signed for next season right here, right now. Their big 3 in Embiid, Maxey, and Paul George, plus Jared McCain. And then, they have other maybes. They've got maybes in Oubre with a player option, Gershon Yabusele is a free agent, and Quentin Grimes. But they don't have a lot of guys. So you could see them say, excuse me, whether it's Sean Marks, hey, can we get a player from you? Yeah, that's Cam Johnson plus a pick just to bulk up a little bit, because they're so top heavy, and that was obviously a problem throughout the season when Embiid couldn't play, when Maxey had so much on his shoulders, and when Paul George just wasn't Paul George anymore. So you got to hope for that this coming season, but you also just don't want to put so much on Maxey every night. So maybe if you can get a couple players, because this team is top heavy and super old if they just go back with a lot of these supporting players. That's I could see both sides, that's for sure. Yeah. But this number 3 pick, it could be the best player of everybody I just mentioned.
Well, that's what we're getting at here. You're going to move, if you're the Sixers, you're going to move back in the draft if you're fairly certain that your preferred prospect, at least, is still going to be available to you, and that you can also pick up an asset and still get the guy you wanted, be it a player or even more picks, more bites at the apple, right? Great article on Philly Voice where they took a trip down NBA draft memory lane to sort of help contemplate what the Sixers might be able to get for the number 3 pick if they sort of go that way of moving back. Some good ones here. DeAndre Hunter, that trade in 2019, The Pelicans had the number 4 pick overall after the Anthony Davis deal. The Hawks, they were enamored with DeAndre Hunter. They wanted to move up, and the Pelicans were fine with stockpiling assets. So the Hawks consolidated 3 later picks, 8, 17, and 35, to move up to number 4 to take Hunter. A clear comp this year could be the Nets. You said it there, Trey. They have a bunch of first-round picks, so they could take 3 of those picks, 8, let's say 19, 35, whatever. You could offer that to move up to number 3 with the Sixers. I think there's something there. That makes a little bit of sense. But again, all of these, the Nets, these other ones I'm going to bring up, they have to be enamored with Ace Bailey or VJ Edgecombe. Like, they have to want someone so bad to move up to number 3 that you're willing to give up either more draft capital or players, right? A few of the other ones, I mean, the obvious one is the Luka Trey trade of 2018. Atlanta had the number 3 pick. They were fascinated with Trae Young. Conversely, the Mavericks, they wanted Luka Doncic. They were at number 5. So they swapped spots. Dallas gave Atlanta a lightly protected future first-round pick to do the swap because, you know, Luka was the bigger prospect still, but again, the Hawks wanted Trae Young. An obvious comp here could be the Sixers trading the number 3 pick to the Jazz for the number 5 pick and then a future pick, let's say 2027 by way of the Lakers or something like that. Or you could trade the number 3 pick to the Wizards for the number 6 pick and a future first-round pick, let's say in 2029 or something like that. But again, in this example, the Jazz or the Wizards have to want to move up because they're like, oh, we really want Ace Bailey. We really want him, and he's not going to be there at 5 or 6, so they would have to do that. And then the final one, you got to go back to 2008. OJ Mayo, Kevin Love getting swapped around draft night. The Wolves had the number 3 overall pick, but they wanted to get Kevin Love, and the Grizzlies, they were picking at number 5. They wanted OJ Mayo. They thought he was the superior prospect. So they just basically swapped those. I think they actually drafted the guys and then did the trade. And there was a bunch of other guys like thrown in, a bunch of filler to be honest, but Mike Miller was in the trade too. So he was like, the Wolves got the number 5 pick and Mike Miller in that trade. What would be similar this year? Maybe the Pelicans. If again, they really want like a Bailey or a VJ Edgecombe, you could trade the number 3 pick, Kelly Oubre Jr., Andre Drummond to the Pelicans for the number 7 pick, and then a good player. Herb Jones would be awesome, I think, for Philly. Now, I don't think the Pels would do that unless, again, they love one of those guys that they don't think will be there at 7. So good stuff from the Philly Voice. I thought that was like, wow, taking a little trip down memory lane and like maybe some things that they could explore this summer.
Hearing you say all those, it sounds like the team that traded down lost every one of those trades.
Interesting. Well, I would say the Wolves didn't. They got Kevin Love instead of OJ Mayo.
Oh, yeah.
So that's good. And
you
Mike
said
Miller.
the Wolves were the 3 pick.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
so they traded back.
They won out.
That one, they won.
out,
The other ones, yes, I would agree with you. Yeah.
The other question, which I think it's kind of been shot down by like Kyle Neubeck of All Philly and maybe Aronson as well at the Philly Voice, is the Paul George plus the number 3 pick package.
Right.
Is that attractive to anybody? Paul George will be 35. He's got 2 years plus a player option left, 52, 54, and $57 million.
Oh, it's a monster. It is a monster. And when you look back at what he did, no, he's nowhere near that salary right now. If you're thinking about trading for him, you're just hoping that last year was just a blip because the year before he was great.
Right, but like the Sixers aren't going to trade Paul George and the number 3 pick for like Kevin Durant, let's say. Suns would do that in a heartbeat.
Yes.
Heartbeat. But why would Philly do that? I mean, that'd be silly, I think. Because they need some young talent.
Yeah,
So-
again,
But I mean, Kevin Durant's contract is shorter and he's better.
Yeah,
But I don't think
that
that one is going to happen.
No.
Larry Markkinen was another guy who was rumored. He's on
for Paul George and a 3.
Yeah, for Paul George and 3. Utah again would need to love a guy at the 3rd pick, and Utah needs a star. They've been rebuilding for 3 years, and they basically have nothing except for draft picks further on down the line.
Yeah.
One-time All-Star Larry Markkinen.
If the 5th pick comes back in that to Philly, I mean, then they're still getting a chance to get a player that they might really like. Obviously high still, not the 3rd pick, but someone they like. I don't know.
Yeah, the picks make a little more sense in that deal rather than Paul George going to the Utah Jazz. But the Utah Jazz continuously swing and miss because their pick just keeps dropping. Unfortunately, they try to be extremely bad. Here they are with the number 5 pick. So you could see why they'd be hungry for number 3. Sixers are just in a weird scenario with how many guys are signed next year. They literally only have 4 guys guaranteed next year that are part of the rotation because Oubre may not come back. You got an old Eric Gordon. You really don't have a lot of guys, period. So you have Embiid, George, Maxey, and McCain. That's it. Unless they match for Quentin Grimes, and they have 5. So they just may want to get depth, period, because Daryl Morey is the guy who just keeps on swinging with hey, Kyle Lowry, you're going to save the day with old guys. So they need numbers, that's for sure.
It also just comes down to, like, people are really torn on whether Ace Bailey is going to be, like, a star player in this league. You see one camp say, yeah, man, this guy's the next Kevin Durant. And then you see the whole other side say, do not draft him. Not at number 3. They should be wise to move down because he's not that type of player. So I don't know. I'm not a draft expert. No clue. I mean, with all of this, it's like we don't have really any idea. But this is why we're getting at this, right? It's like this idea of like, they're like, oh, we don't really love who's going to be there at 3 because we're missing out on Cooper and Dylan Harper, who are like feel like the two, like, oh, okay, you can like sort of pencil those guys in as stars maybe. Here it like gets interesting. It's like, I don't know, Edgecombe, Bailey, which one? And then are you even convinced that they can help you win right now with the construction of your team? That's the other part, right? Led by Embiid. So we'll see. All right. Next.